Greetings and welcome to Arcana Analysis, where we invite you into the Velvet Room to unlock the secrets of the Arcanum and the bonds they encompass. In this episode of Arcana Analysis, we'll be examining the Justice Arcana. Justice holds the Roman numeral 8 and follows the Chariot. In a tarot reading, the Justice card is emblematic of fairness and karma. Its nature lies in cause and effect, a testament to the connections between events, people, and actions. However, Justice also warns against unnecessary blame. To punish oneself too harshly is never a good idea, especially when one is not deserving of punishment in the first place. Overall, this Arcana's appearance in a reading urges one to act with objectivity, reacting to life in fair and balanced ways. Within the Persona series, the Justice Arcana takes on a more distilled version of equity. Here, justice is black and white. There is only good and evil. This is, of course, a flawed concept, one that goes hand in hand with the Arcana's other association, children. Many bearers of the Justice Arcana are kids or people with immature mindsets. The childishness present here lends itself to a simplified mindset, one that sometimes fails to understand the complexity of others' actions, for better or worse. Those aligned with the Justice Arcana can be stoic and shy, but as they come to trust the player, they are more than happy to open up, often finding comfort in this. They are, of course, concerned with fairness in matters both large and trivial. Bearers of justice may fight just as passionately for the fate of the world as for getting a fair share at the dinner table. Personas aligned with justice most commonly take the form of various angels, though other deities of truth and order are found in the mix, and they often excel in light-based abilities such as Hama attacks. Notably, a couple of Justice persona are based on vengeful figures, alluding to the somewhat flawed sense of retribution that characters aligned under this Arcana have been known to carry.
The Justice social link in Persona 3 is held by Chihiro Fushimi, the student council treasurer at Gekkoukan High. She's an incredibly shy and reserved individual, often struggling to stand up for herself in the presence of oppressive figures. Below the surface lies a fiery passion, however, one that shows itself whenever Chihiro discusses something she truly adores. Within her social link, it is revealed that despite her position as treasurer, Chihiro struggles with math and comes from a rather poor family. She holds herself well, though, maintaining a frugal lifestyle even if it means being unable to purchase the things she desires. One such item, a book of illustrations from a manga she adores, is far beyond what she can afford and has to be left aside despite how badly Chihiro wants it. All this makes the student council treasurer the primary suspect when a good deal of money from students goes missing. Because of her struggle to stand up for herself, she is continually accosted by the student body, and she becomes the victim of vicious rumors about her home life. Through the support of the protagonist, she manages to shake off these accusations, though it isn't until she's called in to meet Student Council President Mitsuru Kirijo that Chihiro finally stands up for herself. In order to find the missing money, Mitsuru offers to look into it alongside the protagonist, which breeds a great deal of fear within Chihiro. She worries that if the protagonist is left alone with Mitsuru, then the two are bound to fall for one another, prompting her to confront the teacher she had initially left the money with. The teacher admits that it was his fault the money went missing, and apologizes for all the trouble he caused. At the end of the link, Chihiro confides in the protagonist that she has feelings for him, and she assumed that if he and Mitsuru were to spend time alone together, she would lose him for good. She also saves up money to buy the illustration book that previously caught her eye, proving that she needn't live a life free of pleasures, that with enough time and patience, she can have the things she loves. Wrongly accused of a crime she didn't commit, Chihiro's link is one befitting of the Justice Arcana. Though her actions were motivated by desire, her heart was set on uncovering the truth and exposing the facts to a student body who let their preconceived notions determine the verdict.
The Justice Arcana is also held by Ken Amada from Persona 3, who is the youngest member of VIII. Though he appears to be an ordinary elementary school student, Ken is incredibly intelligent and mature for his age. This is mainly due to the trauma Ken faced at a young age, when he witnessed the death of his mother. He has harbored a deep resentment towards the killer ever since that day, and upon joining VIII, Ken finally receives a chance at revenge. On the night of October 4th, Ken meets with Shinjiro Aragaki at the place of his mother's death. He confronts Shinjiro, who, in an accident 2 years prior, caused the death of Ken's mother. This event left a serious impact on both parties, causing Ken to go down a dark path towards vengeance, and Shinjiro to distance himself from others out of guilt. Ken even intended on committing suicide following his act of revenge, though his confrontation is cut short by the arrival of Takaya Sakaki. The leader of Strega attempts to kill Ken, but Shinjiro sacrifices himself to save the boy's life. He reminds Ken that he is still just a child, with his whole life ahead of him. His future should be more than just a quest for vengeance. Following that harrowing night, Ken runs from the dormitory out of fear and guilt for what transpired. It's only after he is confronted by Akihiko that Ken lets Shinjiro's final words set in. He resolves to live his life looking toward the future as opposed to holding on to the past, forgiving Shinjiro for his past transgressions. It's through this newfound outlook that Ken's persona evolves from Nemesis to Kalanemi. Ultimately, Ken's quest for revenge was short-sighted, and he lacked the maturity and life experience to realize the nuance of the situation. Though what transpired was a tragedy, Ken learns to grow from it. In Persona 3 Portable, Ken's social link focuses on overcoming his shyness, as well as his desire to present as more mature than he really is. Through a series of lunch outings with the protagonist, Ken becomes more comfortable expressing his interests with an older girl, even becoming so confident as to admit that he has feelings for her. Besides building a romantic relationship with the protagonist, this link leaves Ken with an understanding that he needn't hide his passions to seem more mature. Rather, being honest about what you love is a true sign of maturity. Ken's initial persona, Nemesis, is depicted as a robotic, humanoid figure with a large saw blade rotating around the exterior of its body. The persona's color scheme is black, blue, and gold, which is the same as Castor, the persona wielded by Shinjiro, creating a visual link between the two characters. In Greek myth, Nemesis is a goddess of divine retribution, which is befitting of a boy who is driven by a desire for revenge. Mythology also describes Nemesis producing an egg that hatched two sets of twins. In one, Helen of Troy and Clytemnestra, and in the other, Castor and Polydeuces. This is another link to Shinjiro's persona. When Ken's persona evolves to Kalanemi, it becomes a much larger figure adorned with several astrological signs and two massive spheres at its shoulders. Seeing as Kalanemi is the pre-Vedic spirit of the zodiac, the astrology signs fit its mythological role well, and from that we can interpret the two spheres as planetarium projectors. Alongside its role as the spirit of the zodiac, Kalanemi is the Vedic deity of fate, which fits well with Ken's shift in mentality. He is no longer burdened by past vengeances. Instead, he focuses his gaze towards the future, and now has a persona befitting of that goal.
Nanako Dojima is the little cousin of the player character and the holder of the Justice Arcana in Persona 4 and Persona 4 Golden. She is still quite young, only being in early grade school at the time of the game. Nanako's maturity matches her age. She is quite simplistic in her view of things, and while she has a sweet nature and a kind heart, she cannot yet understand the people around her very well. Nanako is far from a carefree child. Due to her mother's early death, she carries many responsibilities that children her age rarely grapple with, such as cooking and cleaning around the house. Like her father, she is also burdened by the trauma relating to the loss of her mother. Dojima's cold demeanor and workaholic nature greatly add to the pain Nanako feels. She's incredibly lonely, often spending many hours home alone before her father returns for the night, if he even returns while she's still awake at all. In her social link, we see how this slowly wears away at Nanako, leading her to believe that her father doesn't really love her and will eventually forget about her. This tension comes to a head when Nanako runs away and Dojima and the protagonist have to search in the night for her. Nanako can't understand how the pain of loss has affected her father. His depression and tendency to throw himself into finding his wife's killer has created a rift between them, but Nanako isn't mature enough to piece this together. Instead, she blames the only actor she can conceive of, herself. This story has a happy ending. Dojima realizes how his actions have hurt his daughter, and resolves to spend more time with her. However, this happy end doesn't last for too long. Nanako is eventually targeted by Namatame, and dragged into the TV world. The dungeon that manifests out of her suffering from her mother's passing encapsulates Nanako's childish demeanor and limited understanding of the world. It's an idealistic vision of heaven, complete with pearly gates, fluffy clouds, and beautiful flowers. Though she is ultimately rescued by the investigation team, Nanako is left in critical condition. The harm that came to her infuriates the player and their friends, leading to a confrontation with what justice means to them. They're given the chance to pass judgment on Namatame themselves, choosing either to kill him via the TV, or to look past the fog and realize the hidden nuance of the situation. Should the player choose to weigh their options carefully instead of acting on pure fury, Nanako will be saved and reunite with her beloved father and big bro. Nanako is a fascinating example of the Justice Arcana, forcing the player to interact with what judgment really means to them, and calling for them to make mature options rather than acting childishly.
The bearer of the Justice Arcana in Persona 5 is Goro Akechi, a young detective and the final member of the Phantom Thieves. For the majority of the game, Goro actually opposes the thieves, only joining forces with them after determining their identities. During his time with the thieves, he proves himself to be quite the asset, in both intellect and his skills with a persona. He is also shown to be quite the charmer in many of his appearances on television. However, this is only one side of Goro Akechi. Below the surface lies an individual starved of attention and affection, stretching back all the way to his childhood. He was orphaned as a child, left alone after his father's abandonment and his mother's suicide. He was passed around several child institutions, never truly making any friends during his stay. So, in an effort to make up for his lack of intimacy, Goro crafted a new persona, that of the detective prince. While none can deny the boy's intellect, Goro's success as a detective is ultimately a fabrication. After awakening to his abilities as a wild card, and reconnecting with his father, Masayoshi Shido, Goro began acting as a cognitive hitman for his father, causing mental shutdowns and even creating the very cases he claimed to have solved. This deception continues with his time in the Phantom Thieves, as he sells them out to the police in an attempt to keep them from discovering the truth about Shido's scheme. After his plot to assassinate the protagonist is thwarted, he encounters the rest of the thieves in Shido's palace and reveals his true intentions. Not only has he been working alongside his father, but he intends on betraying Shido at the height of his power, exposing his wrongdoing to the world in the ultimate act of revenge. Though he seeks his own justice, it's clear to the thieves that his methods are ultimately selfish and immature. Akechi disregards the lives of others in the pursuit of exposing his father, making him just as liable, if not more so. It isn't until he is faced with a life or death situation that Goro finally realizes the error of his ways. The constant kindness exhibited by the protagonist, as well as the other Phantom Thieves, encourages Akechi to atone for his crimes in the only way he knows how, by sacrificing his life. Because of this, we fail to see Akechi mature completely, though from his selfless act, we know that he has the potential to become a fully realized bearer of the Justice Arcana. Akechi's initial persona, Robin Hood, is depicted as an almost stereotypically heroic figure, having a large, muscular body covered in red, white, blue, and gold. The persona is also accented with several wings, which could be allusions towards an almost angelic righteousness, or simply the concept of freedom. In English folklore, Robin Hood is a highly skilled archer and swordsman known to steal from the rich and give to the poor. This could reflect Goro's ultimate goal of exposing his father's greed to the world as justice for his crimes against the poor, i.e. Goro and his mother. This overtly heroic persona is ultimately compensating for Akechi's true persona, Loki, which better reflects the boy's true nature. Its body is adorned with black and white stripes, reminiscent of dazzle camouflage used on warships in World War I. They are meant to elicit a sense of uncertainty in Akechi's motives, making him both literally and figuratively difficult to discern. In Norse mythology, Loki is a trickster god well known for his double-crossing nature. He is the very antithesis of the values the Justice Arcana stands for, which is befitting of an individual who is so highly controlled by his desires and emotions.
That concludes our examination of the Justice Arcana. While the bearers of this arcana often fight for their own justice, they must also work towards maturing themselves, as a lack of objectivity and rationality are their greatest enemies. Those who learn to improve themselves may, in turn, improve their situation.
We hope you've enjoyed your stay with us in the Velvet Room, and we look forward to seeing you again. Until then, we bid you adieu.